G'day guys, goeiedag, we gaan dit. Helle weer neer, wat ons weer neer. In the world of rugby, the reigning, the defending, the undisputed world champions, the mighty Springboks, has truly lived up to their name as the world champions tonight. In the famous words of Rocky, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and you keep scoring those tries. Okay, something like that. And, you know, I talked about this in the preview. The team that goes out there and tries to kick penalties and milk an easy win is the team that's going to lose. And it looked like the Springboks was going to do that in the first half. I was losing hope. I thought the Springboks had an opportunity early on. That second penalty when Sasha missed, that was a golden opportunity to strike the French. They were under penalty warning, could be a yellow card, and they took the easy way out, right? And then things got worse. Red card to Lood. We're going to look at that in a minute and go through bit by bit about why I think it's a really difficult decision and why I think it is actually worthy of a straight send-off. But let's talk about the overall state of the game first, right? Once that red card was issued, the French, you can clearly see the players felt like they've won the game in the second half. There was a lot of just pointless, mindless kicking. The Springboks didn't care that you were kicking the ball away because when you kick the ball away, you have no advantage on the field. It's just the two kickers punting the ball back and forward. Your extra man's not doing anything. So the French was lured into a sense of confidence, whereas the Springboks, like the champion that gets knocked down, gets back up, and gets himself back into the fight, realizing that his mistake came out in the second half, despite having a play in the bin, went for the tries, went for the lineouts, and got the score, 3 tries in the end of the game to absolutely inflict maximum punishment against the French and snatching the win once again in front of the French fans. Just to give you an idea, the Springboks didn't actually have a line out more inside the French 22 till about 60 minutes on the clock. That's how conservative the Springbok was in the first half, in fact the first 60 minutes. And finally they got themselves in their 22, they went for the more, and then realized the French team wasn't able to defend that. And in typical Springbok fashion, right, we'll talk about this, they find a wound and they stick their finger inside it and make you cry for your mum. And that's what they did. They found the weakness in the French defense in the line-out set piece and they just squeezed it. Just every time they went for it, you can see the French wasn't organized and they only compounded with the penalties. And then, boy, Bieri panic, knocking the ball forward, sending himself forward the yellow card, and Springbok just build and build and build. Apply pressure, 14 players for the entire, most of the second half. Still dominated with just absolute perfection, absolute just championship quality of each players poured through from the Springboks. And I think that was really important for two reasons. One, the Rassie Erasmus wanted to see the players pull through in adversity. And some of these younger players like Sasha show that he can do that. That's number one. Number two, Rassie Erasmus took off the experienced players like Siya Khaleesi, like what's his name, Ibn Netzbeth. And he wanted to see if the player can still organize themselves without their leader heads on the field. And the players did that. And they backed themselves with confidence, with trust amongst their own players to build out to this win. And that is something, unfortunately, if you're a French fan, I am sorry, your team will not be able to do if you continue to send your B team in July and miss out a third of the international season with a team that doesn't even play for the rest of the year. Unfortunately, you can gaslight everybody as much as you want that we're building towards the future, Eddie Jones style. We'll give look how good our B team is, almost be the All Blacks. You can gaslight yourself all you want, but when crunch time comes, when you're down and out and 14 players on the field, if you have a team that hasn't played with each other for half of the season or like a third of the season, when you're constantly chopping and changing the team because the top 14 unfortunately has your unit by the balls, you're not going to have the players to deliver that. You're going to have players on the field kicking the ball away because nobody really knows what each other is capable of. Too many, haven't played with each other, right? You're kicking the ball away. Ramos, tried to play that Bagler style, kicking the ball down the side, right? Worked in the first half. When it stops working, what do? You haven't got a game plan, plan B. And that's not because that's not because, Rassie Erasmus has all this game plan planned out. That's not because Gaultier wasn't giving instructions to change up some of the styles. Because your players hasn't been playing with each other to execute whatever the instruction was when the game has shifted towards the Springboks. That's the difference. You have all the talent in the world, but you're not going to win the Rugby World Cup. You're not going to win these big matches if you don't have a consistent team throughout the year. And unfortunately, money is the king, right? Money is more important than anything in the world. And the national team is being held hostage. It is what it is. Your French guys have to figure that out. But you're telling me you can make all the excuses you want. You haven't got Anton Dupont. You didn't have Anton Dupont in the Six Nations, mate. And you still won Six Nations with confidence, with ease. Because your players aren't consistently playing with each other. And that's the problem. The Six Nations, you have basically the November building into it. And July, you have a break. Suddenly, you have players haven't touched the ball in an international test arena for 6 months. As much as you like to think top 14 is a high quality competition, it's not the same as test rugby. It's not the same when your national pride is on the line. It's not the same. And boy, the French is the French have to really look hard at themselves and start a protest or something to get the top 14 to release the players for July and give the players more break during the season, like everybody else does, so they can play in July. But hey, let's move on from that. So Springboks, in addition, I thought the scrum was quite even. I had concerns that Angus Gardner wasn't going to let the scrum play out because he had a bit of a history of letting the clap scrum just kind of play on. And he looked like he was going to do that early in the game, but he actually allowed the scrum to actually kind of like resolve itself and then make a decision whether it's penalty, whether it's wheeling, whether it's whatever it is. He allowed the scrum penalties to actually play out itself, which was really which I really appreciate that from Angus Gardner. And it was a bit of 50-50. I thought the Springboks had a few wheelings, probably 50-50 call, but Angus Gardner gave it to the Springboks. But overall, I thought the Springboks did have a bit of an advantage in the scrummaging. Lots of young faces in the scrum in the front rows for French as well. So not too surprising there for both teams that the Springboks might have a bit of an edge there. In addition to that, the line-out maul, like I said, didn't happen for 60 minutes, and they immediately finds that, and then they poke it, and they get themselves up front. It's really disappointing because the French actually backed themselves for more in the first half for their tries, build themselves with those set pieces, and actually had the game basically in control. And then the Springboks, and basically they relinquished that in the second half to the Springboks by giving away, just kicking the ball away constantly, a little bit mindless there overall. Now, let's have a look at probably the most controversial decision I think most Afrikaners and South Africans are throwing things at the TV at that point. It's the red card. The 20-minute red card is in play. And Angus Gardner knows the rules of 20-minute red card better than everybody else because he's been operating under these rules in Super Rugby when it was first introduced in Super Rugby. So I have no doubt that his decisions were correct. So a lot of people don't understand this. 20-minute red card never ever replaced the actual red card. So whatever is normally a red card from, maybe before 2019, is still a red card. And full send-off. So like abusing the referee, striking another player, or egregiously, foul play in a dangerous manner, which is what we saw tonight. Still full send-off red cards. The original red card was never changed. The only place the 20-minute red card comes into play is in a rugby incident. So a legal play or an accident happening and then causing a foul play. That is that is where the 20-minute red card is applied. So in this situation here, a lot of people might say, "Hey, there's a mitigating factor here. There's a tackler involved, right? Which is the number 9. What is his name? Reinach tackling Ramos, and then Ramos is falling, and Jager There's a drop of height. Jager also very low. Went in for the tackle. And then that's the mitigating factor. Maybe this should just be a 20-minute red card, right? However, it is, the problem here is if Jager had actually wrapped his arm, all of those mitigating factor would have applied. Would have applied for a 20-minute red card, maybe even just a yellow card, to be really frank with you. Maybe even just a yellow card, right? But, here's a big but. That everything Jager did is illegal to begin with. Shoulder tucked, dropping down onto a player that was on the ground, right? What's his name? Ramos is on the ground, his knees on the ground. So he's literally dropped himself onto a player on the ground illegally with the shoulder tucked. So that move in itself is extremely dangerous and illegal to begin with. So it's no longer considered a rugby incident. It's an illegal, dangerous move on a player that's on the ground to begin with. So the full red card here, I can see it being being applied correctly. I think Angus Gunner actually applied this correctly. And it's really good because we draw the line where the 20-minute red card ends and the actual red card begins. And I think Gunner actually set a really good precedent here. You made a dangerous move that is illegal to begin with on a player that's on the ground, which is compounds the danger. You literally diving downwards onto a player on the ground. You're not allowed to do that anyway. And this all resulted in a very dangerous move that could have really seriously, Ramos wasn't seriously injured or hurt. I don't think he even came off for HIA. But still, the result is, that is like, if he had actually wrapped the arm, and I think that could have been a 20-minute red card, but he did not wrap the arm, and yeah, the mitigating factors simply do not apply. I think this is a good line to be drawn. This is a good precedent to be set. But let me know your thoughts. Initially, I felt exactly the same. I thought this was overstepping the boundaries from Gardner. This should have been just referred to the TMO and the 20-minute red card. But after looking at it and really thinking about, the situation, the mitigating factors do not apply because everything that Jager did, it's actually illegal to begin with. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in this one, and in the comments, I'll be happy to talk to you about it, about your thoughts. So yeah, with that being said, that's pretty much what I'll say. And finally, finally, Andre Esterhuizen, finally grown up to be a big boy, right? He's finally become a man for the Springboks, and officially, I guess it's not officially, this is played against, tier 2 nations, against, I guess Italy's not tier 2, but he played against some easier teams, Japan and Italy. But yeah, really actually came on. And what's really impressive for me was the fact that because he plays center, when the red card occurred, they can actually put him at both center and flanker. If they needed extra weight on the scrum, he's a flanker. If they needed extra defender in the center, he's out at center because they actually subbed him on for Dialenda. So he's actually on as a center technically, but he plays in the scrum, in the 4-pack. When the 4-pack is asserting the dominance, he's out in the back line as a center in defense when the French had the ball. So just 200 IQ from Dr. Rassie once again, and Esterhuizen finally becoming a man, becoming a forward. I think his family will be very, very proud that his boy has grown up to be a man. So anyway, let's look at the match stats of the game. Very interesting. 3 tries to 2. I'm pretty sure Springboks scored all 3 tries at the end. 4 tries to 2. Wait, hang on. Let's just do this again. 3. I'm pretty sure they scored 3 tries. Yeah, 4 tries to 2. 330 around meters to the Springboks. 270 for the French. 103 carries for the French. 87 for the Springboks. We've got 22 defenders beaten for the French. 15 for the Springboks. 13 turnovers conceded for the French. 15 against the Springboks. Tackles made. 93 for the French. 15 missed tackles. So the defense was actually really, really, really good for the French. For the most part, until the end, when the defensive line, the pressure just really started to get to just miscommunications, like, the run through from Sasha, the run through from Grant Williams, it's just purely defensive players not talking to each other and under pressure and leading into runaway tries like that. 88 tackles made for the Springboks, 22 misses. The French actually had more impact in terms of making missed tackles against the Springboks in terms of percentage and overall count. 30 kicks in play for the French, 39 for the Springboks. A bunch of missed kicks for the three missed kicks for Sasha. So yeah, 928 run meters for the Springboks, kick meters for the Springboks to the 846. The second half, it's not just like the kicking game. That's the thing. It's the quality of the kicking. It's especially the second half. You can see there were periods where the French were just randomly kicking the ball away. Like no one was chasing. There was no angle to try to go for 50-22. Just like boom, punting it down, and then Sasha is just like, all right, have to play this game, punting it back. Even in fact, when Sasha kicks the back, he actually chases it. When the French punt it down, it's like it's just like no one's even pressuring. So some of the kicks was really questionable. I think Gautier would not be happy about that. 15 lineouts for the French, 1 lost. No lineout loss for the Springboks. The French looked really close to stealing a couple of those, but it really wasn't the case. 2 scrum loss for the French. Yeah, there were tied hair wins from the Springboks. Based on Ghana's interpretation of some of the wheeling, I thought it was a interesting decision there regardless, but Springboks definitely made it clear to the referee in one way or another that they had the dominance, a couple of scrum catches as well. I thought it was 50-50, but Ghana clearly saw something that led him to believe that the French was at fault. So 2 scrum turnovers, massive for the Springboks. 13 penalties considered for the French, 1 yellow card for deliberate knock-on against BL Bieri. The Springboks, other than the red card from Jager, impeccable discipline. 7 penalties considered overall. Really not giving the French an opportunity to just punt the ball over again and again for Ramos to tick the scoreboard over, knowing how good of a kicker he is. And it is one of those things, right? Especially under pressure, 14 player on the field, still able to keep that composure and not just throwing away penalties. Really, really impressive. And I think that, again, just Rassie Erasmus really drew that into the players, really emphasized the importance of not giving away penalties, and the players delivered for us. I'm sure the French had the same, don't give away too many penalties, but that's the difference between the players on the field trusting each other, not giving away silly penalties, and the player on the field hasn't played each other consistently throughout the year, in my opinion. Anyway, let's do a quick recap of the scoring of the match. So we've got, so 4 minutes in the game, the French was actually in a bit of a dominant position. Like we talked about in the preview, speed, something that you can't coach. What's his name? Ramos got the ball, did a little switch, kick behind, and Damien Pennell, too fast, too quick, got there first, scooped out the ball for the try. 7 points to nil, the French taking the lead. 8 minutes, there was a turnover penalty, and the Springboks taking the 3. I was like, oh boy, doesn't look good. 12 minutes is again scrum penalty of the Springboks to kick another 3, 6 points to 7. 17 minutes, there was a penalty for the Springboks. There was a miss. 19 minutes in the game, another penalty to the Springboks, and there was a repeated penalty warning from the referee, and the Springboks decided to go for another 3. I thought that was a turning point. Lots of momentum here was building for the Springboks, was lost. That was a really, really bad decision. So again, there's 3 points missed as well. So yeah, it didn't go well at all for them. And of course, you kicked away your momentum. You kicked away the penalty warning. The French came back. They had a penalty. They went for the line out. They went for the more penalty advantage. Spread the ball out wide. Acres for space panel. Run in for the try. 14 points to 6. 32 minutes in the game. Finally, the Springboks had a bit of an advantage. 40 minutes out, had a scrum. Got a penalty advantage to spread the ball out. The crash midfield. Reinach looked up, saw a gap, ran through, chipped over the top, and then followed that one through with a scoop and ground the ball for the try. Absolutely individual brilliance there. 14 points to 13. Halftime, just before halftime, Jager gets sent off. Full red, no buts. Second half starts again. It's like the French, as you can clearly see, taking the foot off the gas. Lots of stupid kicking. About 47 men. Both teams start putting on their reserves. 53 minutes, Springbok had a scrum penalty. Didn't quite get this one. I think there was was it a penalty goal there? 53? No. So there was what happened here? So 58 minutes, there was a lot of kicking. The French gets a penalty. They kicked 17 points to 13, and I thought, you're kicking penalty against 14 players. So that was not really that great. Sure enough, 60 minutes, the Springboks came on with more with the reserves. They had a penalty. They didn't kick the goal. They went for the line out. They decided to take the game in their own hands to show that championship World Cup winning quality. They went for the line out. 22 minutes out. A little dart down the short side. More penalties. They went for more line out, went for the squeeze. The more went down again, more penalty advantage. Ball went our way. Beer stuck his hand out, yellow card. And then the Springboks really smelling the blood. More penalty, more Moors. And then eventually the Moor try goes through. Andre Esterhuizen goes in for the try. 17 points to the 18. Springbok gets in front. 68 minutes, another penalty for the Springboks. Easily kickball. You could argue that the Springboks, could put it out of one penalty reach. No, they went for the line out again. The Moor was again illegally collapsed, and there was a penalty advantage. Grant Williams look up. Big gap between the 10 and the 13. Jager, and then I think it's Jager, whatever his name is. Rassie, whatever his name is, the number 13. And what's his name? The number 10, Intermac. They haven't played with each other in July, right? And Intermac didn't play with him in Six Nations either. Big miscommunication, massive gap opened up, and then Williams ran through 25 points to 17. Finally, 75 minutes in the game, another penalty for the Springboks. They could easily kick this one and just put it out of reach. Good for all, but the Springboks wanted to just make a statement, I guess. Just really want to show the world how they play rugby. They went for the line out, and once again, a couple of phases later, Sasha saw a gap, just ran straight through for the try. 17 points to 32. Springboks absolutely dominant victory, putting this one to bed that, the Rugby World Cup with no fluke, no referee assistance from Ben O'Keefe this time, and gets the try and ball. Let me know your thoughts about the red card. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later for the Wallaby game. I haven't watched that yet, so maybe the Wallabies lost. My joy for today might be wiped away very quickly. So thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.